Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Sundays Are for Forgiveness. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how my husband's forgiveness reminds me of God's unconditional love. Some of you guys may know 13 years ago, I had an affair, and it definitely was one of the most painful things that I inflicted on my husband. And it's something that I will always be sorry for. And baby, I love you so much. And I am so grateful to be married to you, and I'm so grateful to of that God allowed us to have this opportunity to just have a second chance at our love. And I love you, baby. So I just wanted to share with everybody how His forgiveness for me reminds me of God's unconditional love. You know, the pain that someone goes through when you break their trust, when you crush their heart, you it's horrible, and it is unfair that it happened to him, and I hate that it happened. But I feel like, you know, God does do everything for a reason, and both of us now, we talk about it, and like the other day I remember I was crying and I was just like, why did we have to go through this, and then he just said, because God gives his biggest battles to his, strongest warriors. And we both just laughed because of a meme that we had seen. But, he's like, no, but babe, it's true. And then he's like, and now look what you're doing. And I was like, you're right. And I'm just grateful to be able to be on here and just share this with you guys. But I wanted to read out of First Corinthians 13, verse 4 through 7, really fast. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud, it is not rude. It is not self seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. I'm really grateful to be on here and just being able to share the fact that we have a second chance at our love. And I'm grateful that God loves us this much. Like nobody has ever loved me like this. And I remember telling my husband, I said, babe, there's that part where it says, love keeps no record of wrong. And I told him, I feel so blessed to be married to you because, you could have easily thrown what I did to you in
My
my face many a times, probably, but you never have, Hector. I told him, I said, you have never done that to me. And I told him, I said, you don't understand how much that means to me. Like, it reminds me of God's love. You not doing that reminds me of God's love. And I'm just grateful to be able to experience that. And I told him, I said, how are you able to eventually forgive me, babe? And then he was like, well, because I just remembered the scriptures and I remember that God forgave me. So, that's what help him to forgive me eventually. And like I said, it's not like the forgiveness happened overnight because it didn't. It took a few years. So him and I had been off and on for like 6 years, I want to say, where we would try to like get, work on our marriage, but then we wouldn't. And then we tried it again, and then it didn't work. And then we would do it one more thing. We did it the third time really was the charm. But you guys, I'm just grateful to be on here and just sharing this experience with us. I don't know if some of you guys have ever heard that Olivia Dean song, Let Alone the One You Love. Today I was listening to it and I started crying, and I shared the song with Hector, and I was like, babe, our hug should have never ended. Like what happened to us should have never happened. And the reason that I say that is because my husband and we met in a really, really controlled church. It controlled everything that we did. I was 29. Like I joined this gym. You know what? This is going to be a story for another day. But anyways, I told him, I said, babe, our hug should have never ended, but it just took a break. I said, it didn't end. It just took a break because here we are, we're still here. And I'm just grateful. But I just wanted to come on here and just share this with anybody because I want to give you guys hope. Anything is possible. And it worked for our marriage, and not everybody's marriage is going to be salvaged after a affair. And actually, believe it or not, I think my husband was telling me today that for 50 to 60% of couples that have long-term marriages, there's some kind of affair, whether it be emotional or physical. there's some kind of affairs, 50 to 60. So if you think about that, me and whoever's watching, one of us will or have had has had an affair, and that would be me. So you don't have to worry about it. But no, seriously, my husband told me to say that. So don't even come at me in the comments. 50 to 60% of relationships that are long term, somebody ends up having an affair, whether it be emotional or physical. Hector was telling me, and he was saying that only 39% of them actually survive the affair. So he's like, babe, like, can you believe we're part of the 39? And I'm like, I'm so grateful that we're part of the 39. I love that man so much. I'm so grateful that we get to continue to do this life together, and we get to raise our children together and just continue to do this. But I hope that this encourages anybody. I hope that you guys come back for another episode next Sunday. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about, but I will let you guys know throughout the week. But thank you guys again for letting me share. Thank you for everybody who has started following me. I really appreciate it. And like I say, I am your dopest hope dealer. So I'll see you guys next Sunday. Bye.